Am I the jerk for telling a friend to shut up if they have nothing good to say ever? I, a 28-year-old male, have been in college with a very tightly knit group of friends, including Stacy, a 29-year-old female. Stacy and I grew quite close as friends because we mostly have the same character. We are both rather introverted, nerdy, have the same classes and interests, and share the same friends. She is a reliable friend, and you can tell her anything. She is generally of good advice and listens whenever I need her to. As we graduated college in 2019, our group split up. Stacy had to go to Brittany for her job and home, as her parents owned a flat there that she could live in. Now, we keep in touch regularly via text message and sometimes live calls. I visited her with 2 other girls from our group with whom she was quite close to. It was a great holiday that I remember fondly. However, time has passed, and the more I talk with Stacy, the more she's starting to sound like a broken record. Stacy complains a lot, but I get her. Stacy is the daughter of 2 French ambassadors and as such, always had to move from one country to another, change schools, change friends, basically living like a nomad, and seeing her parents maybe 2 times a year if she was lucky. My mom always told me to cut her some slack, and I agree, it's not an easy life. However, Stacy has doubled down on her complaining for a few months now. For example, she regularly says her job sucks and she hates it. She also says that she hates her city and has no one to talk to. When I try to offer her advice, she always has a good excuse. It's too expensive, I don't have time, I don't have holidays, I don't want to the point that whenever she complained, I started to leave her on read. The negativity was starting to get exhausting, especially since, while she had a good paying job, I was still stuck at my parents trying to find a decent job in the post-COVID job market. Which brings us to the final event. Recently, her quite big city hosted a pride event, and she was happy to go since she is a bisexual girl. She sent me a text about how it was nice, and I was happy that she finally seemed to have a good time. It was short-lived. For 2 hours later, she sent a full-on voicemail complaining about how public transport was stuck and shitty, and that she would need a full hour to go home. I just couldn't shut up and simply answered, even on a good day like this, you managed to complain. When will you be satisfied? Can you actually be satisfied? Since then, a few days ago, she sent a few texts telling me I overreacted and owed her an apology. I didn't answer, as I was still too angry to reply in a way that would not damage our friendship further. Am I the asshole for telling her off? Moving to a new city and starting work can be really challenging, especially when trying to meet new people without the convenience of university classrooms to find common interests. She might feel isolated and considers you a good friend to vent to, so cut her some slack. Maybe she can't see anything positive in her situation and is trying to keep up a one-sided conversation with you in any way she can. Calmly ask her if she needs help, as you've noticed an increase in negativity lately, and try to listen to why she's feeling this way. Am I the jerk for telling my sibling they need to marry someone wealthy to ensure their future is secure? I know this is going to sound bad, but there is no other way to explain it. I, a 23-year-old male, was the oh shit of the family. My 25-year-old sister was the oh yes. We come from a wealthy background, but she benefits more than I ever will, and I'm okay with that. My sister likes to stop by on occasion, mostly to stir the pot. Usually this happens when she is bored, so not that often. A little about my sister. She graduated school but never went to college, which is fine. Lots of people can have a great life without a college education. I really don't think she has ever worked a day in her life. That's beneath her, or she expects to make $200,000 a year at the start. I was working on bills, and she was more or less just doing her thing by reminding me that our parents left her everything and that she was the favorite. At a certain point, I finally asked her what her point was. I told her that these are things I already know and that she has reminded me about on a regular basis. These are problems I don't want to deal with. She didn't like my response, but it did make her think for a minute. She responded with, "What problems are you talking about?" I responded saying, "Give it up. I know more than you think I do. Mom and Dad owe money. At least the last I know they did. I may have been gone for a while, but I do remember hearing them talk about what they owe on the houses and cars and everything else." I told her that she needs to hope they have enough life insurance to keep her afloat and pay off the debts. She responded with, "I'm sure that they have all that figured out." I was just annoyed at this point. I left it with, "Okay, I hope you are right, but to make sure that you are taken care of, I would start looking for a rich husband now. That way, you can make sure you have what it takes to keep up with your vacations and shopping trips." That really caught her off guard, but she came back with, "Do you really have such little faith in me?" Again, I laid it all out to her and told her she has no experience, no education past high school, and if Mom and Dad were to pass tomorrow, she would be stuck with a lot of debt. If she wanted to keep up with everything, she was going to need to figure out how to pay for it all. She called me an asshole. She finally left and went back to our parents, who then called me asking why I was being so mean. I explained everything to them. I told my parents how they set her up for failure, and I was just really tired of her feeling the need to remind me how she's the favorite, and I'm just a piece of shit to all of them. So, am I the asshole for telling my sister she needs to marry rich to ensure her survival? You did the right thing. It's baffling how the parents left her everything, yet are still around to ask why you're being so mean. They're the ones at fault for letting her believe she's the princess of the family. Seriously, why let her invade your space with her nonsense? Am I the jerk for making people change lanes at the bowling alley? I, a 28-year-old female, cannot bowl to save my life. I've only been a few times, and I'm uniformly terrible. Weirdly enough, I get strikes 10% of the time and gutter balls the other 90%, with no in-between. People have offered to teach me, but I've decided I'm comfortable with being really that bad. Yes, this is relevant. Last night, my boyfriend Anish, who is 28 years old, and I decided to go bowling because the local place was having an all-you-can-bowl night. We were assigned to a lane next to a group of 5 women and 1 man, who seemed to be in his late 40s. They were on the left, we were on the right. The lanes have 2 big tables each, one of which was farther back and up a small set of stairs. Anish and I had both gotten a beer. When we went to set our drinks down on the table next to the lanes, the man in the neighboring group quickly informed us that it was their table. We said no worries, sorry, and walked up the stairs to the other one. After a few bowling rounds, I was sipping my beer while waiting for the ball to return and then put the drink down without thinking. The man once again told me that it was their table and they had reserved it. I said, oh whoops, and grabbed my drink. I returned to Anish and quietly said, I mean, the table is theirs for however long they reserved it, so whatever. But they're being weirdly intense about it. What do you think is up? Anish and I speculated it was a birthday party, but there were no gifts, cake, or balloons. It's just a table, so we didn't make an issue of it. Later, I went to throw, but my fingers stuck in the holes. My ball went to the left and ended up in the neighboring lane as a gutter ball. I immediately apologized profusely to the group. A bunch of people nearby saw my wild throw and started laughing. I waved at them and took a little bow to show there were no hard feelings, but I was definitely embarrassed. Anish promised me that it happens sometimes, even to good bowlers. Well, the group didn't accept my apology. The man said, go ahead and use our table since you're determined to ruin our good time. I replied, I'm really sorry I bowled in your lane. I promise I didn't do it intentionally. You can take one of my turns if you want. Long story short, the group reported us to the employees. I have no idea for what. We didn't find out until we were paying our bar tab and the bartenders whom we had heavily tipped told us the gossip. The employees made the group switch to a different lane, while Anish and I were left with their table. I would be lying if I said I didn't feel a little smug about it after they were such bad sports, but in their defense, Anish wanted to leave 10 minutes later. It seems wrong for us to make 6 people move when the 2 of us were almost finished. Am I the asshole? The other party was being unreasonable, and the employees knew it, which is probably why they moved the party to another area. Those others sound overly sensitive, especially if they didn't want random people putting stuff on their table. Throwing a ball into the next lane over is pretty insane though, and working on that technique might be a good idea. Overall, being considerate and keeping things in your own lane would make everyone's experience better. Am I the jerk for telling my neighbor that I'm done buying cigarettes for him? I am spending my lunch break writing. I am a 31-year-old man who lives alone in a lower-income neighborhood made up of several duplex, triplex, and fourplex rental properties. I work from home from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday. Across the street from me, there is a 2-bedroom apartment with 7 people in it, including a man we will call Billy. When I first met him, he appeared to be about 80 years old. He waved me down one day and asked if I could pick him up a pack of cigarettes. I agreed, and he handed me a $10 bill. This continued for a few days until the end of the month approached. He waved me over again and said he did not have any money. I said, yeah, I can spot you for a pack, knowing I would be fine for a week. 2 weeks later, his money was gone. He walked over to my front door and rang the bell. I asked what was up, and he requested that I pick him up a couple of packs, promising to pay me back on the 1st of the month. I told him, yeah, I can do it, but this is the last time because I am on a budget this month. I need to buy a new washing machine. And Billy, I work from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day, and I'm in a lot of phone meetings, so please wait until you see me to wave me over, okay? The next night, he was hanging out on the deck at my other neighbor's house, Chuck. I learned from Chuck that Billy is only 66 years old and has been asking all the neighbors for cigarettes, promising to pay everyone back. This problem became worse. 2 weeks ago, he rang my doorbell while I was on a Zoom call. 6 times. Annoyed, I ran to my door and asked what he wanted. He tried to go through his chit-chat routine, but I was in a meeting, so I cut him off and asked, Billy, do you need cigarettes? He stammered out a slow, yes. I said, okay, I'll get them later. I'm in a meeting, so I have to go, and I shut the door and got back to the meeting. My boss asked me, do you just chat with your neighbors all day? And I replied, no, just one when he wants me to buy him cigarettes because he can't drive. After work, I got groceries and his cigarettes. I walked over to Billy and said, listen, I can't buy you cigarettes anymore. I got in trouble at work today because you pulled me out of a meeting. Don't ask me to buy you cigarettes again, okay? 20 minutes ago, he rang my doorbell again. He asked if I could help him out with a couple of packs until he is paid, and my blood pressure spiked. I said, Billy, you're interrupting me at work, and I already said I'm not buying you cigarettes anymore. He was quite taken aback. Please keep in mind that telling him no results in him giving us attitude. Billy said, I was hoping you'd be able to help me out, and I said, no, I told you I'm not doing it anymore. I need to get back to work and don't ask me again. I do not like being mean, rude, antagonizing, or anything like that. But I feel like he is trying to take advantage of me, so am I the asshole for telling him to stop bothering me? You did nothing wrong here. People like this will use you over and over again because they have no shame. Tall fences make good neighbors, so maybe consider putting up some boundaries. Stop even answering the door and put a full stop to this. Am I the jerk for choosing my therapist over my sibling? My sister and I have always been very close due to unhealthy and inconsistent family dynamics between us and our parents. Then, I started dating and met an amazing guy. We really hit it off, but he thought I needed therapy before we could be anything more because I had clear issues. He told me that I erased myself to make sure everyone else was happy, and he didn't want to be in a relationship with someone who would always want whatever he wanted. Me and him lost contact after a while, but what he said made me notice that I indeed have a lot of issues. So, a year or so ago, I decided to start therapy. Since the beginning, my sister has been really against it and always brings it up, asking if I'm still doing the therapy thing. My therapist gave me the challenge of saying no to things that make me uncomfortable. My sister asked me to go out with her and some friends of hers on Saturday to celebrate the month of her birthday. Her birthday is July 19th, so it is not really the official celebration. I don't really know any of them and felt uncomfortable. So I said no, but told her we could go out on Sunday. My sister asked me why I said no, and I told her all of this. She flipped out. She told me she always knew that I would end up choosing to hear a random person over her. She said I was being just like our parents and not being there for her important moments. She told me she refused to have another person like mom and dad in her life, and if I didn't choose her, she didn't want anything to do with me. I told her the choice was clear and that my therapist clearly cared more about me than her. I'm a mess right now and haven't stopped crying since. My sister isn't talking to me. I tried calling and direct messaging her, but she blocked me. Some common friends reached out and told me I was an asshole that I could do a small thing for my sister, but chose this hill to die on. I honestly feel like the biggest asshole. At the end of the day, my sister also has traumas from our childhood, and maybe I made them worse. The worst part is that my mom heard about our fight and told me that I was right. I should always choose myself. And if she is on my side, probably I'm wrong. Am I the asshole? You did nothing to deserve criticism. Your sister is being ridiculous, and her extreme reaction to you using the word no for the first time is very telling. It seems like you made the right choice by setting a boundary. Stop reaching out to her. She's the one who should apologize and learn to respect your autonomy and boundaries. Am I the jerk for picking a fight with my partner over them choosing their best friend over me? Hello people, I was recently invited to a party by my boyfriend, a 26-year-old male, and his friends. We have been together for about a year now, and this was supposed to be the first time I officially meet his friends. I had previously met a few of them, and it was extremely awkward, so I was a bit apprehensive about meeting his friends this time around. I also deal with some social anxiety, so that made it worse. On the day of the party, my boyfriend said he would pick me up, and we were meant to get to the venue together. This was important for me because I didn't want to be there without him. An hour before he was supposed to pick me up, he texted me asking if I could find my own way there because his girl best friend needed a ride to the party. I was upset and told him that he had already promised to pick me up, but he didn't reply to any of the messages for the next hour. After he reached the venue, he texted me asking where I was. I didn't want to make a scene in front of his friends, so I ended up driving myself to the party. Throughout the night, my boyfriend was glued to his girl best friend because he was meeting her after a long time. Not once did he bother to ask me if I was feeling okay or whether I needed anything. I made small talk with some of his friends, but overall I didn't feel included because my own boyfriend was paying zero attention to me. It felt like I was just a random person who showed up to this party uninvited. Eventually, I was too tired of even trying to act like I was not upset with my boyfriend's reaction and just said bye to the people sitting around me and left. My boyfriend was too drunk to even notice that I had left. This is very unlike him because, in the year that we have dated, he's been very caring and thoughtful. He was the one who insisted that I meet his friends, and he said he would make me feel right at home. The next day, he called me in the evening, fuming about how I just walked out without even saying bye to everyone. I told him that no one cared if I was even there, and it took him almost a day to realize. We had a huge fight over it, and I talked to him about choosing to pick up his girl best friend instead of me and spending the entire evening with her and acting like I didn't exist. He denied all those things and said that I was being a crazy, possessive girlfriend and that what he did was completely normal. I talked to some friends, and they sided with him, saying that he was meeting his best friend after a long time and that he must have wanted to make the most out of it. This got me wondering if I was in the wrong and if I should made more of an effort. So, am I the asshole? You did nothing wrong here. Red flags are flying everywhere. He invited you to this party, promised to look out for you, then ditched you, went Mia for an hour, ignored you, and spent the whole time with another girl. Everything about this sounds strange and frustrating. He should be extremely grateful you turned up at all given his behavior. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.